This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Cabo Jim Schaller.
Welcome, good neighbors, to episode number 206 of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have good neighbor, Dr. Nate Gindele from Gindele Family Chiropractic. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jim.
Absolutely. Always good to get to know more people here in the community and share their stories with our listeners. So let's jump right in and why don't you share a little bit. Obviously, you're in chiropractic, but share a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I've been in practice for 16 years now and had the same location for the last 14. And just, chiropractic's in my blood. My father's a chiropractor in North Fort Myers for the last 44 years. Like I said, I've been here for the last 16. And just kind of, seen a lot and seen the way that chiropractic can help people live a better, higher quality of life in a more natural, alternative way without the use of drugs and surgery. So it's been a pretty, I always like to say, like, if you love what you do, you haven't worked a day in your life. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Absolutely. Got to be passionate about what you do and love what you do. And obviously following in your father's footstep, I was going to ask you how you got involved in the industry, but that's a good way to do it. So you just loved what he was doing and said, I want to do that too, right?
Yeah, my mom was a teacher, and when I got to that point in life, I was like, do I want to be a teacher? Or do I want to be a chiropractor? And fortunately, I got to do both. So when I finished when I finished undergraduate in 2003, I had the opportunity to be an open-ended permanent substitute teacher at Cape Coral High School while I was finishing my prerequisites. So I taught high school, finished my prerequisites for chiropractic school, and then during that time I realized, like, I got to help those kids during that time when I had them. But as a chiropractor, I get to help people for basically, if I'm lucky, a big portion of their life. And so that's kind of been my idea, was like, I can help people different way, but for a longer period of time than just the however long the semester was. So I was, it's a good.
That's great. Bottom line, you're helping people, right?
Right. Yeah. Good opportunity. I don't think most people can say they had the opportunity to try their second choice in profession. So I was fortunate to do that.
I love it. I love it. So I would talk about challenges, whether personally or professionally, there's something that always happens along our journey that we can kind of look back at now years later and say, you know what, I'm not necessarily glad I went through it, but you know what, maybe I'm in a better place because of it. Is there something that happened along your journey?
So, probably the biggest thing is I always had the idea that I wanted to be in practice for myself. So you jump out, you go from chiropractic school and you're like surrounded by a bunch of chiropractic students and professors, and everyone's gung ho about chiropractic. Then you get out into the real world and everyone doesn't think about chiropractic the same way that you do. So, that was my initial hurdle, was like, wait, like, it was like basically like trying to teach somebody like a different language. Like, wait, no, you don't understand. Like, this is amazing. Like, everyone should be doing this. Everyone was just doing it like 2 weeks ago. Now you don't want to do it. So that would be the biggest one, was like just trying to jump from school life or academic life to real world. That doesn't really get talked about in much of any profession, right? Because from conversations I've had with, engineers and finance people, they're like, textbook life and real life application isn't the same, right? So that's the initial hurdle that I experienced. And then, not to be cliche, but like 2019, 2020, COVID life, like having to pivot and adapt to rules and regulations that we weren't prior having to abide by. And fortunately, as a chiropractor, we were still deemed essential. So I didn't really have to close my businesses at all, but I had to adapt and pivot the way that we did them. So I kind of looked at it like the silver lining to that was I got a little break. So I was still able to work. My hours shrunk a little bit. Still saw people, still kept people out there doing other essential jobs, keeping them you know, basically I looked at it like my place in the world at that time was to keep people that were fortunate enough to be out there working and moving and doing the things they need to do. I was able to help them do that. So those were the two major challenges that, I mean, I would say like were the biggest feats, like
And-
that
yeah,
I've
and
overcome. And
that's definitely challenging. And, yeah, not no pun intended, but you're hands on. And during COVID, you're kind of being told, well, you can't be doing that. And
right.
it's not like you could
Yeah.
do it over a Zoom call.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, man, what was it like to work remote? Because so, but like I said, it's one of those things. It's like you learn, you chalk it up as one of those things. Like, okay, now we know how to deal with it, and hopefully it never happens again. But when it does, we know
Feel
we have at least
prepared.
some experience to be able to be ready to get it taken care of.
Absolutely. So talking, I don't know, somewhere along those lines, but are there any maybe myths or misconceptions surrounding what you do that we can kind of clear up for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one that I hear on the most regular basis is, once you start going to a chiropractor, you have to go for the rest of your life. And, while there is some truth to that, um, I like to kind of inform you of why we think that way. And so in my mind, it shouldn't be like, yes, you have to go to the chiropractor to the same frequency and intensity that you did the first time you met them, whenever you were in that acute neck pain, back pain condition. But our job is to get you out of pain. But then it's also like ultimately to continue to get you to live the best quality of life possible and expressing your full potential as a human being. And I like to use that as like, you don't go to the gym and work out one day and expect to have like the best body that you've ever desired. It takes time and frequency and consistency and repetition. So ideally, like in my mind, you should be like, okay, go to the chiropractor. Their number one job, if you present with some kind of pain, is to get you out of pain. But then that should be, let's do it as fast as possible and as efficient as possible. But then the second part should be like, let me teach you how to build a resilient body. And chiropractic should be one of those tools you do to like make sure you maintain an optimum quality of life. And um, I think when you start to reason with people that way, they understand like, oh yeah, like I should eat well, I should think well, I should move well, and ultimately that'll make me be well in every aspect of my life.
Yeah, it affects you in so many other ways than just your back. It's, every day. You don't realize it until I'm gonna say hurt your back or injure your back. You're like, oh my God, everything
Right.
I do.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's usually where we meet people. But like I said, our job, in my opinion, as a chiropractor, is to educate the person sitting in front of you how the things they do on a daily basis affect their frame, right? And like the nervous system and the way they function, and like how the things we eat affect, they manifest in ways that our body process everything differently. So, we're designed to be we're designed to be healthy human beings. Like sometimes the choices that we make, take us down a different path.
Yep. Yep.
And so like I just kind of like as a gentle nudge be like, hey, like, that's good every once in a while, but like most of the time we have to live this way.
Well, as some people call it in other industries, it's preventative maintenance. So you're avoiding that big injury or something along those
I
lines.
feel like you may have heard that word before.
Just once or twice. So have you talking about the industry, is there anything trending, changing, evolving, new technologies?
um, there's some, I say this all the time. Like if you go to a chiropractic seminar or convention and you walk through the expo, where there are, different vendors selling things, you would walk through one side and out the other, and you would be like, what's chiropractic? I mean, there's tools for this, there's beds for this, there's creams for that. And so there's always some kind of, technology, um, some kind of other products to help people, get better faster, quicker,
Yep.
perform better. And so like, I think the newest technology is like shockwave, which is, stimulating like cellular response, like, different, which is going to affect how the muscle tissue is, the nervous system is. And, I I have an intern in my office right now, and I'm just trying to teach him like, look, like I'm still going to tell you like the chiropractic adjustment is the best thing that we got going, like
Right.
hands down,
Right.
hands down. So I want to have some of that stuff to offer people. Like in the office, we have, spinal decompression, all the therapies, ultrasound, muscle stim, laser, and that stuff like that. But I still use the chiropractic adjustment every single day. But I have those available because there's some people that come in and they're like, hey, I saw this new, Instagram, Facebook, TikToks, all those things. It was like, this is the newest, hottest thing, and I want that. And I'm like, all right, I got it, but
Right.
like, I still think this is, but
But
that the just to appease people and not
right.
like so.
Sometimes sticking
But
to the basics is better, right?
yeah, so
Keep
to answer your question simply, it's like I don't know of any like groundbreaking technology and that's coming out that's like just over the top. Like you
right.
have to have this. You need this today.
Absolutely. So you mentioned you were you born down here in Southwest Florida?
No, I grew up in
You
Cape
grew up.
Coral.
Okay.
I think I moved there when I was like 6 months old.
All
So
right. Okay.
I'm happy to say that I'm not like born here, but I don't know anything different.
Right. You're as close as you can get without being
Yeah,
born here.
that's it.
So I know your job can be very demanding and time is probably, very few and far in between, but when you do get a moment of free time, what do you enjoy doing outside of work?
So most of the time right now, sports have just kicked up for my kids. So my daughter plays volleyball for her school and for clubs. So a lot of times it's traveling for that. My son, he's a wrestler for Fort Myers High. So that just started last week. Um, when I'm not working, I like to get out in nature. My office is right up the street from the 6 Mile Slough, so I like to kind of start my day sometimes when I have time to walk through the slough, get to the beach, travel. Getting ready to go on my daughter's birthday is next week of Thanksgiving, so we're going to travel for that, and just kind of like take the opportunity to just like, you know, I have this thing of experiences over stuff right now, so just kind of creating different experiences. And we live in Florida, and there's a lot of hidden gems that we have, like
Exactly. I
day
always
trips.
say you could take a road trip or a day trip anywhere around Florida, and all the beaches are totally different too. So you could just do a beach tour and find totally different
Yeah,
things. I love it. That's why we love it down here.
that's it.
So, is there one thing you wish our listeners knew about what you do that maybe they wouldn't be aware of?
Um, I just, I'm such an advocate for chiropractic, and it's not. And then, I tell people if I meet someone and they're like, the question I dread the most, honestly, is, you know, when people ask me what I do for a living, because everyone has a chiropractic story. But my one thing is like the importance of maintaining your body. And obviously, as a chiropractor, I like to do that through chiropractic. Um, and so I always like people to say, no matter the experience you've had with chiropractic or even PT and massage, and the, our bodies are high performance machines, and they require maintenance just like your car does. And so that's the one thing is like, you know, in any aspect of any business you go to, if something seems odd or off, or it's like a sales pitch, like we shouldn't be selling this, right? Like this should be something that people want to do with themselves and to themselves, to live better for whatever, like their spouse, their kid, their grandparents, their whatever, So that's kind of what I like is kind of just change your mentality of the way you think about taking care of your body. And chiropractic is one of those ways to do it. And it doesn't require a lot. It just requires consistency, frequency, and time to make changes. And that's what I'm an advocate for is those things. And I'm lucky enough to be able to be a chiropractor that sees those miracles every single day.
I love it. I love it. So, how would our listeners go about contacting you if they had some questions, had needed some adjustments?
Um, so my office is Gindele Family Chiropractic, um, 6 Mile Cypress and Colonial, right by the Top Golf. I'm in the Publix Plaza. Like I said, I've been there for 15 years. I have Instagram. So Dr. Nate _Chiro is like my personal one where I put like a lot of stuff. At Gindele Family Chiropractic is the office one where, it's more like strictly just the chiropractic stuff. But sometimes I put like maybe the stuff that might be a little more edgy on my personal one. But I always link them together. And then Facebook, we have a Facebook website. I have my office is there's always an open door when we're here. Something else unique, like I have kombucha, nitro cold brew coffee on tap as a basically experience.
Wow.
It's free. I say you don't have to be a patient to come in and enjoy something. You come in and just hang out in the office, and but just creating experience, and so pretty accessible. We answer our Facebook messages, we answer our Instagram messages. Great team, just happy to be able to assist people, help people, and ultimately, like, I'll tell you if chiropractic isn't the best thing for you, and if it is the best thing for you, and if it's not, I'll make sure you get to the best person that you need to see, and whatever's going on. So
Perfect. I'm gonna have to stop by and try some of that stuff
yeah, man.
for sure. But Dr. Nate, it's been a pleasure getting to know you. Thank you for being such a good neighbor, and I hope to see you out in the community soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Estero. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpestero.com. That's gnpestero.com. Or call 239-296-2621.